there's certain qualities of doing film photography, or what they call analog photography, that you don't have with digital photography. And there's certain qualities of digital photography that you don't have with analog photography. And I can't say one is better than the other. I think that's stupid. That's like saying painting is better than drawing, or it doesn't mean anything. And there's certain things about analog photography or black and white film photography that attract me. Like, one of the things that I like about it is that when you take a picture, you've used something up. Whereas when you take a picture with a digital camera, nothing's been used up, because you can just erase it and you do it. In other words, you can take endless numbers of pictures. There's no end of the roll. So you're not using something up when you take a digital picture. So the economics of it, and I don't mean money, but in terms of time, is very different, because when I take a picture, I have one less picture on the roll to use, and it costs a certain amount of money, and so I don't just shoot. Whereas I've seen people shoot digitally, and they just keep pushing the button because it doesn't matter, hoping that they'll get a good one. Whereas in film photography, I think it encourages me to pay attention more. I don't know if this is fair. I kind of understand what happens in film, like chemically, optically. I sort of get it, that the light tarnishes the silver in the film, and then when you develop it, it turns black and so forth. Whereas with digital photography, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if other people do know what's going on, but I don't get it. I just really don't get it. Whereas with film, it's sort of like drawing. I sort of understand what's happening because I've been doing it for so long, and there's not that much to it. It's not very technical. Whereas when you're talking about digital photography, there's a kind of an abstraction about it, and the difficulty, I think, is in a different area with digital photography. And it's not an area that I know about or am that interested in. But the difficulty, how can I say this so it makes sense? I've chosen may not be exactly the right word, but I've chosen to use a certain kind of camera, a certain kind of lens, a certain kind of film, a certain kind of developer, a certain kind of paper, a certain kind of paper developer, a certain kind of enlarger, a certain kind of paper developer. And then what I'm doing is I'm trying really hard to get the most information out of those materials. And many, many times I fall short because there's not enough light, or it's too contrasty, or it's too fast, or so forth. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing on the limits of those materials that I've chosen to use in order to try to get the most out of them. And like a good example in painting would be like de Kooning's mid-period of Women One and the early Long Island abstractions, landscape abstractions. He's trying with all his strength and all his intelligence and with all his might to get the most out of the paint, to make it as painterly as possible. What is paint really, what can you do with paint that, like in terms of color, in terms of blending, in terms of splashing, in terms of movement, in terms of what paint wants to do. And he's doing all he can to do it. So I'm trying to do all I can with this limited set of materials, whereas with digital, if you do all you can, you end up with like a 40-foot mural that shows every hair on the cat's tail, and the cat's frozen in space when it's leaping, and that's not. Then to do less than that is to not use the materials as fully as they're capable of being used. So what you're doing with digital is you're using some of what's possible. So you're saying, I could go 200 miles an hour, but I'm choosing only to go 60 miles an hour. And there's something about that that's not attractive to me. Like when I go to the ballet and I see these dancers, and they're trying to be as graceful and as perfect and leap as high as they can and hold a pose as perfectly as they can. They're doing everything they can to do all that their body will possibly deliver. And the dancers that talk about balancing, demanding that they go further with their bodies and do more, whereas, so in other words, if a ballet dancer moves their arm like that, it's like with the most intensity and most intention that they can possibly bring to that move. But if it's digital, it's sort of like you can do more, but you're choosing to do a little less. And I find that that doesn't attract me. So that's one of the reasons I like doing what I do. Does that help? Was that good?